Welcome, everybody. We have the fabulous Mel, and I'm Valerie.
Okay, you get to tell them what we're talking about today. I did it last time.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's another episode around shiny objects, communities, and owning your own IP. So all you bootstrappers out there, we're going to have a little conversation about how to start a few things. And this actually was prompted because I was on a networking session the other day, and it was for government contracts. And many of you out there are trying to figure out how to get your revenue streams going. And they thought, oh, I'll just get on a networking group and figure out how to get government contracts. And
It's not that easy.
it isn't that easy, first of all. And second of all, there's a lot of, on that networking session, there were organizations that were pushing grant writings, RFP writing. There were others that were pushing all the services to get you in front of the line. And that prompted a conversation between Mel and I about some of the free resources. So we're going to give you some free resources on this one to help you, not necessarily for government contracts, but actually, if you're in the United States, and many countries have similar free resources. So teeing that up, I'm going to let Mel take over on teeing up typical communities that take advantage of your IP and deliver probably not what you were thinking.
So let's start off with talking about IP. IP is intellectual property. And while it is the most valuable for any business owner to own their own IP, when you bootstrap, the mindset is often, how can I get X for the cheapest value possible, or the cheapest price, not value? Okay. And when you get into that mindset, what often ends up happening is you end up compromising your own IP instead of building value. If you don't build value in your business, you don't have a business. You have a job. Because ultimately a business is intended to make money. And then when you transition, whether it be you sell or a kid, one of your kids or somebody in your family buys you out, or whatever the case may be, if you don't have value, you can't sell your business. So owning your own IP is vitally important. And when it comes to government contracting in particular, like Valerie was saying, there are free resources out there. They're government run. SBDC, Small Business Development Center, SBA, Small Business Association. They're government organizations that are designed to help you on that journey to help you land government contracts successfully. They do it without taking any stake in your business. They have a methodology that they use. It creates a foundation for you to build the IP in your business, but they don't take any ownership. They don't lock you into anything. Everything that you get and receive from them is free for you to own. Now, if you're paying a subscription to QuickBooks Online or something like that, that's different. They're going to maybe recommend some tools and give you options, but they're going to teach you the process of going after government contracts. I'm curious, have you ever gone after a government contract, Valerie?
Oh, yeah.
I know we've done it with clients, but I didn't know if you've done it with your business.
Me personally?
Yeah.
Honestly, I haven't. I actually have supported those organizations. I've spoke at those events. But no, I haven't had personally the need for my businesses to go into the government. Now, a lot of the government resources will use contractors in order to make things happen. So a free resource for instance, is business coaching at the colleges. Believe it or not, a lot of them are associated with a college in your area, right? So they will do business coaching, which will help you set up your financials and your business case and your marketing and those things. But they a lot of times are paying someone like myself or Mel or somebody else to actually come in and do that. That's your government taxes at work, right? I mean, that's so I've been on the other end of it. There's a lot of centers like MEPs that are running around for helping with cyber and setup coaching, and they are actually commercial hires by the government to help in these associations. So sometimes it feels a little bit like you're thinking, well, they're just a government employee helping. How can they know what this is? So they are hiring independent contractors to help. And to ask me that question, it almost feels like, well, yeah. No, I actually have not. And it's funny, I've been hired as a CRO that I have placed with government distributors in order to get name out, brand out, because they will at least co-market with them. And all the contracting and leveraged procurement vehicles for doing that, but again, supporting another organization that I'm hired to support.
Yeah, I am mostly in that boat as well. Most of my government experience has been through the clients that I'm working with or teaching classes to help companies be more effective with it. I have pitched on a few, and when you bootstrap your business, on one hand, it is a fabulous experience to go through. It helps you it helps you document every aspect of your business and teaches you the formalities of formal proposals. Whether you land the contract or not, you will learn something. That is a guarantee.
Sorry, my internet just went.
Became this victory superhero there. The challenge with bidding on government contract work is it's always a bidding process. And in 99% of the cases, it's lowest bid wins.
Yeah.
No questions beyond that. It's just simply lowest bid wins. Or it is so if I had to prioritize, I would say it's lowest bid wins. Then it is based on work that is most identical to exactly what they're asking for.
Yes. And in the sales side of the fence, if you can grab a coach from what that RFP is about, which sometimes the Small Business Administration does know kind of what that's about, they're the inside track. And so I don't know, many people think if I just send out, if I get RFPs, I'm going to win business. Less than 10% of any RFPs are won. Yep. So that tells you that
honestly, that number's high. I was expecting much less.
No, there's an average, and that's across the board, not just government contracts, right?
No.
There are organizations that win on a regular basis because absolutely nobody actually applies for it. So they're the lowest bidder. And that is something that people quite often also, if you're willing to sit and hunt, but when you start tapping into those Small Business Administration and those MEPs, they kind of have a sense of what's coming out and they can help with it. I think on this networking event, not to change completely the topic, but on this networking event, I think the challenge that, and the businesses who set up around this are completely valid. If you are an organization that doesn't have time to go write your own grants and you don't have time to go search for RFPs, there are business cases where you want to hire a professional to get that done. But when we're talking about from $0 to 1 million-ish, right? The $0 to 1 million-ish, you're usually trying to get to market, and those free resources are so helpful. Now, if you have funding, that's a whole different thing. We're talking only in the bootstrapping realm. Almost everything is, because it's government, it has to be publicly available.
Yep.
And because of that, your tax dollars pay to give you help, and they prioritize. In fact, in a lot of political rounds where they're firing, whether it's state, whether you shift from federal to individual states in the United States,
or counties or cities, they all operate differently. They all have different requirements. Some require certain levels of how the proposal has to be submitted. And if you do not do exactly as they say, how they say it, you're automatically disqualified. There's a lot of complication to it. And in the end, you have to factor in all of the hours that it takes to put this together, submit it, in addition to doing the work.
Yes.
And then at the end, is it still profitable for you?
And I think one of the, again, back to some of the political climate with it, often the Small Business Administration will not be on the butcher block, just so you know. I don't care what kind of it, I don't care who you're for or what administration, those resources tend to stay there because in the United States, a thriving economy is built on the backs of a lot of small business and small business making it. So you do invest quite a bit in it. And so you might as well at least start with those resources. They will tell you when it's beyond their capability to help you. Yep. And quite often they need extra coaching and extra those types of things. So from there, they will tell you, they'll say, hey, this is probably the best time to, I have actually been pinged. There's this group that's just going nowhere. Could you please at least coach them for us, because they've gone beyond our capability to help them. And the other thing is because they do have the inside track, sometimes they can't coach you on something because it crosses a line as well. Mm-hmm. So those would be times that you would be sourcing. And I think in this dialogue, we also need to talk about revenue tiers in conjunction with that. So revenue tiers, meaning there is a point where you will not have those dollars like Mel was talking about. I mean, your time is worth a lot more than that time, and you then have that nexus of, well, it's really dumb. I use Zig Ziglar's bike. Let's use Zig Ziglar. Let's call him out, the sales evangelist, and everybody kind of. And I love Zig. I do. I wish I'd met him when he was alive. And people, Zig Ziglar, But he had a lot of really great things to say. But the bicycle. Let's use the bicycle analogy. So he thought he was going to go out and go to a thrift store and get a bike. And and you can actually see this on YouTube. There's all sorts of things, but let's just say it cost him $100 to buy this bike. And he's like, I'm saving $25 from buying a new one for my kid. So he goes and he buys the bike. And like I said, I can't even remember the exact dollar amount, but it was something like that. He goes and buys the bike, and then he has to put a new seat on it. He has to put new tires on it. He has to actually put a new chain on it. And he ends up spending so much more on this thrift store bike that he's like, make sure you calculate what it really will cost you, not the price, but what it will really cost you. And he kept saying, I wished I'd have just gone and bought that $125 bike at whatever, Walmart, whatever he was saying at the time. And the reality is with government and using some of the free resources, there is a nexus where you will spend more on the bike.
Yes.
So why don't you talk about that more, Mel?
So we've talked about like government resources, which are fabulous for, like Valerie said, getting you to a point where you can then hire a professional to take you to the next level. That's going to save you the most amount of money. And it's also going to give you a foundation. So when you do hire the professional, they're not having to go over base level information with you. So highly recommend those resources. SCORE is another one, and they have free trainings available online. So right there, a multitude of resources that can at least get you out of the gate.
Yeah.
The privatized version of this is, and I see so many companies fall victim to this and founders, because they take the mindset of somebody else who has to be just like me is the only person who can help me.
Yeah.
I am pretty sure that is the downfall of human society and human race. Because A, it's not possible for somebody to have the exact same experience as you had in every aspect of life or business or whatever the case may be. So
Yeah.
that's first. Second of all, if they're relating to you that much, most likely it's just they're really good at marketing. And I see people create these communities where it's only a particular type of business that targets a particular industry, and you're invited ever so warmly into this group, usually an online community, and you can ask any question you want. There's always an answer, and magically, there's always a provider that offers the exact service that you're asking about. And while that sounds reassuring right off the bat to always have a solution, what you don't realize is how that business model is built is based on a captive audience and overcharging for services that you could get cheaper if you looked elsewhere. But because they know you and everybody in there is the exact same, you believe that this group is the only group that can solve your problems. They may very well have the solutions you need, but A, are you unintentionally giving up your IP? Do you actually own any aspect of your brand? And C, what happens when you outgrow them? Are you able to outgrow them? Or do they intentionally keep you at a small enough size that you don't ever leave? And these are all
Intentionally keep you
intentionally. Right.
Yeah.
And these are questions that founders don't ask when they join these communities, and they don't objectively look for when they're engaging in these communities. And it's not until something drastic happens that they start asking questions outside of the community. And then they're like, oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then they realize that they've essentially been burned. In a worst case scenario, they may have to rebuild the entire infrastructure of their business because they didn't own their own IP. They didn't own their own brand, and they overly relied on this circular community that profits beyond belief because of other founders just like them.
Well, and let's put this into employee terms.
Yeah.
You're an employee working full time for a company. You create something, they own your IP.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
Yep.
So in essence, what you did is you joined a community that created an employment situation. and that was most entrepreneurs and most business founders, owners, they went into business to not be working for somebody else.
Yep,
So
exactly.
and they intentionally, I remember growing up as a kid, my dad's secretary was, and they had, yeah, back then, my dad's secretary, her dad, worked for General Electric, and he was the inventor of the electric iron.
Oh,
They
cool.
lived in relative poverty. They did have a little bit of royalties that he was smart enough to do. But the reality is, you think about these inventions, you think about some of these ideas, and if you're hired to create those ideas, the person hiring you is the IP owner,
Yep.
not you. And that can be a fine line, because a lot of times, like, I'm self-employed, I'm part of this community, and it's like, no, this community just in essence became the new employer.
Yep.
And so
Now,
community, I'm not bagging on all communities.
no. Some communities are amazing, but
Yeah,
there are bad ones out there, just like in every aspect of life. There's always a bad version of whatever it is. Um, the business model of these bad communities is set up that everything is a referral link and a commission on top of it.
yeah,
So it is essentially easy, no money for them while you continue to pay.
yeah,
And that's what a lot of founders don't realize. They're like, this is my community. These are people just like me. If you're hanging out with people that are just like you, how are you going to grow? How is your mindset going to be challenged? How are you going to think differently?
yeah, yeah. Well, and here's the last part of what we were talking about on LinkedIn. I'll use LinkedIn again. I saw a
That is
post.
our primary platform that we hang out on. So, of
Yeah,
course, we're going to use LinkedIn as an example.
yeah, yeah. I, it's interesting, partially because that is basically a business resume community. So if you're B2B, a lot of times, and you're selling B2B, your
Mhm.
business community is there, where B2C is more of some of the other platforms, although there are very small business on Facebook and the rest of them. But I'm just saying, and some medium, a lot of times they'll have a Facebook page if they're a bank, and this and that, and all that kind of stuff. But colleague to colleague, LinkedIn was set up years ago for that. And I think this post was very interesting, and it was very interesting because it was bagging on professionals. And this is a buyer beware kind of conversation that we're having, right? If you're trying to grow your business, buyer beware of your services.
Yep.
And this person proceeded to rant left and right about hiring professionals. Hiring the so-called, I'm a bootstrapper and I got funding. So he decided, and I'll say it's a he decided to go down the route of getting funding, which meant he wasn't a bootstrapper, but eventually became a bootstrapper. Bootstrapper means you're not, other than a little debt financing, some, friends and family, you're not going the PE or the VC route, right? And at the end of the day, the tagline was 0 to 5 million. And he said how he wasted $2 million on all of these. No, it wasn't professionals, so-called experts. So-called experts. And he went down this line of hiring 200,000 for this C person and this C person, another 200,000, and they didn't do jack tiddly squat, and they didn't do blah 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 blah. And how if you learn to bootstrap, you shouldn't have had to pay any experts. Okay, so again, going back to getting small business help to help you understand when it's time to get an expert and when it's
Okay,
time.
so I want to pause you right there for a moment before you continue. This is detriment number 2 to every founder that's ever been a founder.
True.
It's soul crushing to allow the mindset of you can do everything and you can do everything perfectly. You don't need to do everything perfectly, and you cannot possibly do everything perfectly. Your business will be 100% dependent upon you if that's the case. It will never be worth anything. You need to hire experts and let the experts or let other people who are just as or more so qualified than you to get you to that next level.
Always. And here's the example. Every professional athlete, every professional singer, artist, anybody that you idolize, celebrity-wise or otherwise, they have a professional coach. So that is somebody that is, to them, an expert. Now, expert, yeah, that term, anybody self-proclaiming that they're an expert is a whole nother dialogue that we've had before. But remember, expertise means they've walked the walk. We've had episodes that talk about wisdom and some of those things. And I like that you interjected, because that was the point. It was very popular post. Everybody was digging at so-called experts. You look at the thread and they're all self-proclaimed experts digging on experts.
Yep.
But this person is now at 5 million. What foundation did this person get from those experts that they hired before they got the extra 3 million after they spent the 2 million? And next, over the few years, where will they be? Because I can tell you right now, you can start with the Small Business Administration for free resources till you get to the point where they will tell you when you need to outsource to an expert. An expert meaning they've walked the walk, they've talked the talk, most experts have failed miserably very fast, so they know how to tell you to stop doing that shiny thing or whatever that is. But there's varying degrees of experts, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if you haven't done the thing before, then you got to have somebody else help you with the thing.
And let's elaborate on this a little bit. Going back to the limiting mindset belief of unless somebody has walked your exact path and felt the exact feelings that you have, when you look at all of the examples that Valerie gave, whether it be athletes or singers or anybody professionally, usually the people that are doing the coaching, doing the training, helping you level up, they have not been Olympic level. They have not been,
Yes.
Oscar winning themselves, but they have the skill set to train and teach you how you can level up. But until you break that mindset of, if they don't do exactly everything I've been through, they can't possibly know, you're limiting yourself and you're setting yourself up for failure.
Well, and it is that skill set. That's the whole point. You don't have to. Nobody knows everything. Nobody knows everything. And, it takes a tribe, takes a tribe to raise a child, a village to raise, that is because I don't have to build the submarine myself. I can go and have all
love
these
how we just totally jumped analogies. We went from tribes to building submarines.
Yeah.
And now I'm visioning the yellow submarine swimming on.
Yes, we jumped analogies, but that's the whole. I took it from rocket science because a 2-year-old would be that. That's how huge that would be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be Oh, I got to build a submarine today. No, you only need to eat your Cheerios today,
Yep.
or whatever it is. And sorry for all you nutritionists. Come on, give me a break. But the reality is, you only need to eat that thing today
Yep.
because that's all you need to do. And a lot of times, I mean, I have a business coach. I'm sure Mel has a business coach. We all have business or whatever kind of coaches, or we have friends that are acting as business coaches or whatever those are. We need that. You need that in
Yeah.
order to be successful. So that was, I think, what kind of bothered me is I felt like that guy was sensationalizing something by bagging on something that fundamentally perhaps he didn't realize the return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was sensationalizing, and everybody who's on LinkedIn already knows that they all say we don't want it to turn into another Facebook, yet they all sensationalize the next Facebook post on LinkedIn, right? So at the end of the day, I felt like he was really touting his own horn about how he got to 5 million by bagging on everybody who actually helped him get there.
Yeah.
And it was because it cost him. And to bring it back to full circle, there are free resources. Go ahead and use them. Make sure that you calculate it against your time, your energy. There's also competitor response. There
Mm-hmm.
is all sorts of things. So if you have a widget and a widget can be built by somebody else faster than you, then go ahead, then don't, by all means, don't get an expert to take it to market faster than them because, you're going to win over that competitor. So there's all sorts of reasoning and step-by-step things that you need to work out with your business case to decide free resource, not free resource, moving forward. And then lots of free tools on how to calculate that stuff. I mean, there is tons of free tools for that, but yeah.
Just be willing to ask. And sometimes you have to ask the people you're most intimidated to ask because you think they've accomplished way more than either they have or than what you have. Ask. You never know who you always have the opportunity to learn something from somebody.
All right. So we're going to do a couple things on this episode. We're going to drop a few show notes in here for the different organizations that we have said are free resources.
Mm-hmm.
By all means, check them out and at least start your foundation and your research. There is a lot of fluff, especially because of AI. I just saw a Mel Robbins. I was so angry. I just saw a Mel Robbins deepfake. They took all of her content. They started a channel that literally says Mel Robbins Insights, and they had AI generated videos of human beings with all this kind of stuff. Guys, there's so much fakes out there. So you're going to need to do your research.
There's a trend going on right now where millennials and Gen Z are recording their parents watching AI generated videos that are very obviously AI generated. And the parents or grandparents have zero clue that it's AI generated.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm a Gen Zer. I can spot it.
You're not a Gen Zer.
I am too.
You're Gen X. You're not Gen Z.
I'm Gen X. Yes.
Gen Z is younger than both of us.
Oh my goodness sakes. I'm sorry, guys. Yes, I got my alphabet completely confused. Don't believe me. This was an episode of a deep fake. But anyway, do your due diligence. Go straight to the source. Don't try to shortcut going straight to the source on some of these things. And At the end of the day, we'll drop the show notes in there. And I think for Mindsetaholic Podcast.com,
it's right below us.
It'll be right below us. We want you to like it and love it and comment. If you comment and DM us, we actually have a couple of free resources for you as well. And we're actually dropping CRM in, I think, into something.
Yes.
Is that what we said we were going to do?
Well, we'll have more details on that. We're rolling it out. We're still figuring it out. But yes, we are trying to put together resources for our listeners to get access to reliable, credible. And no, we're not going to build one of those private communities that charges you $1 bazillion.
No. We're not.
Everything we roll out will be stuff that you will make sure that you own and protect your own IP.
Yeah. Not in a sleazy, cheesy sort of way, but just some of those kinds of things that we've run across that bootstrappers are struggling with and need a little bit, or those founders are struggling with, need a little boost, that we've seen repetitively. And anyways, that's it. Ta-da!
Awesome. Okay, until next time, like, subscribe, and share, and put in some of your questions below, and we'll see you next time.